Let's begin with Jacqueline. So, Jackie, can you start the conversation for us, please?
Today I was thinking about a story that I'd like to share. It's an old story, and yet it's very relevant to my life right now, too. So I'll start with the old story. It's a story I heard about a sage from ancient times who lived in the forest on an island surrounded by ocean. But there was a small village nearby, so he wasn't completely isolated. And he went about his daily business, and he didn't mingle much with the villagers. And his life was pretty simple. He chopped wood, he carried water, he made food, and he wrote sometimes. And one year in the springtime, the villagers gathered together and they walked up to the sage's small home. It was like a hut. And he could hear them from inside, and he could tell that they were upset about something. But he remained cool. He was like, okay, we'll see. We'll just see what's happening here. And one of the leaders of the group knocked on the sage's door and said, open up. And the sage came to the door and opened it. And he said, good day. And the villagers said, look here. And he pointed to a young girl next to him, a young woman. And he said, this young villager woman says that she's going to have a child and you're the father, but you're supposed to be a sage. You're supposed to be a saint. Saints don't do this. And the sage said nothing. And he looked at the young woman in the eye, and she looked down. And the leader of the group said, do you have anything to say for yourself, sage? And the sage said, is that so? And the villagers started talking amongst themselves and said, he's not even defending himself. He's not even giving a justification or a reason. He's not even denying it. But that's all the sage said was, is that so? And he took in the child. The young woman gave birth. And the sage adopted the young child and raised the child, taught the child to read, to write, to draw, to identify plants, to cook, to maintain the property. And he taught the child all the wisdom that he knew. And the child grew up in the small hut with the sage. And then, just as the child was about to turn of age where he would go on his own adventures as an adult, there was a knock on the door. Almost 20 years later, and the sage opened the door, and there was the villagers again. Although they were older now, they were still angry. They said, this woman, 20 years ago, she gave birth and she said that you were the father, but now she has something to say to you. And the woman, who was now around 40, stepped forward and she said, Sage, 20 years ago, I had a child, but you know you weren't the father. It was the love of my life, but our parents wouldn't let us get married. So I lied and I told everyone that it was you. And I'm sorry. And now I would like to get to know my child, if you'll allow it. You've done such a kind gesture by not saying anything all of these years and showing so much love for my child. And the villager said, Sage, you weren't guilty. You didn't do anything. And the sage looked at them and said, Is that so? And this story struck me when I first heard it, because neither was the sage upset at the false accusation, nor did he get upset when the truth was revealed. And moreover, he accepted what was and even showed love and took on a duty, a role that he could have said, This is not my role. I do not accept it. And here's why. But he surrendered completely to what was unfolding in front of him and even made it into something we could see as quite beautiful. And this relates to my life this weekend because there's a house next door that's having quite a bit of work done on it, and it involves loud hammering for about 12 hours a day lately. And at one point, I noticed thinking, man, I wish this hammering would just go away and stop. Instead of just remaining cool and accepting that it was going to be a temporary situation that I just needed to accept, I wished it would go away. And it's funny because then what happened is that source, when I got up this morning, the hammering had stopped, but it was because there was a power cut. There was no electricity. So they couldn't use the power tools, the pneumatic tools they were using. But so my wish was granted, but also the power was cut for quite a few hours. So it's like when I wish for one thing, according to my imagination of what would be the ideal situation, so often it unfolds in a way that has a flip side to it. So there's always these two sides to the coin of this existence. And that was on my mind today. So thank you for letting me share.
Okay. Thank you, Jacqueline. Beautiful story. So yes, this is the thing. Generally, when we try to run away from our problems, we are exchanging one set of problems for another. And here's the irony that sometimes trying to find a solution to the problem is also running away from the problem. Now, Ramesh, in his book Peace and Harmony in Daily Living, Ramesh Balsekar, would say that the problems are of two types. One, he would say that something like poverty, where you see actually people who are in dire need of food and health and services existing on the plane, that is a genuine problem that is there, and there's no denial about it. For example, in the modern time, war, inequality, these are problems, these are there. However, there are Some problems are just perceived problems. For example, the chase for the fear of insecurity, future insecurity, insecurity regarding money, regarding relationships, regarding one's health, is not an immediate problem. It is mostly a problem that is projected into an imaginary future. And the sages would tell us just to bring our attention to this moment, present moment, here and now. Other than that, there is no solution as such, because when we try to find a solution to a problem, we actually get more and more entangled in the problem. Just as now Jacqueline was mentioning that there was a construction noise and she wished that the noise stopped, but then there was a noise did stop, but there was a power cut for like 13 hours. Was it 13 hours? Yeah, 13 hours. And she didn't even have water to bathe or cook or anything, and it was difficult. And the only thing is that gets us through is accepting the situation for what it is. Now, sometimes this can be very challenging because the mind is so conditioned. Mind is like, no, we are so obsessed with finding solutions. We want the solution to be served to us. And we think that the solution is end all, like it is just one time, we're going to do something about a problem. Any problem, it can be relationship problem or problem in the career or money problems or any problems of that sort, lifestyle problems. We think that there is one solution, that there is one magic portion or one magical formula that will just solve everything for us. But the thing is, majority of the masters are not interested in the problems. They're not interested in the questions. All they are interested in is pointing you towards your true nature, which is inwards. And that is the only thing they say. They say just go inward and see what is the truth for yourself. They do not even try to describe what truth is like. They do not give it a form. They do not give it a dimension. And sometimes it is confusing for us when we try to conceptualize truth. But truth cannot be conceptualized. Truth, one has to be, that's it. And that alone is our isness, our beingness, our amness. That alone is the truth. And one can just be it. One cannot acquire truth. It is not to be acquired. It is not to be attained. For anything that is attained will be lost. Even the peace or harmony that is attained through effort will be lost. In the story that Jacqueline was telling right now, life of monk was much easier. Life of the sage was much easier than the life of the villagers or the couple who was involved, because villager just accepted the situation for what it is. When he was told that he is the father, he did not protest. He did not worry that his name is being spoiled or that his reputation is being spoiled, because sage does not live with those concepts of reputation. Sage accepted and said, okay, if that is so, let that be. And he completely accepted it, meaning he saw that as God's will, that I have to raise this child. And he raised the child. But then the child was taken away from him. Now it is but natural that when the child is taken away from you, there is bound to be some sort of grief. And I'm sure even the sage must have experienced grief. It is not to say that he did not experience grief or emotions. It is not like sages are without emotions. Sages experience emotions just like the rest of us. The only thing is that in the case of sages, there is complete acceptance of the situation the way it is. A sage is completely aware of his or her inner conditioning. Therefore, through that acceptance, they go through the pain, the temporary pain, but they don't suffer. They're not going to live with that for the rest of their lives, that something was taken away from me. Because deep down, they know that nothing was ever mine. Whatever can be taken away has no permanence. And therefore, the sages point to that which is always there and says, try to see that which is always aware, which never leaves, which is the constant. And they're just pointing, they're not trying to describe what it is, because it cannot be described in words. It cannot be thought of, for it is where the thinking begins. It cannot be objectified in any way, because it is the substratum, it is the pure subjectivity from where all objective experience takes place. And the most wonderful thing is that it is right here, right now with you as your experience of being. And this being shines through and through. It shines in waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It shines as existence, as non-existence. It shines as being this or that. It shines as ego. It shines as dissolution of the ego, as being, as non-being. It just keeps illuminating everything. Yet it does not carry any attributes. And recognition of that does something wonderful. What it does is, it drops seeking. When I say seeking, I just don't mean spiritual seeking. It drops seeking everything. One does not try to find solution to life's pain, because the unaltered flow of life is accepted for what it is, without modifications. Now, it is not to say that one must not, if a situation demands a certain action, that one should not do it. Do the action. Do the action as per your best knowledge. In fact, life is about action. This is what Jiddu Krishnamurti has said. This is what Ramesh Balsekar has said in his books too. Life is all about action. It is not about inaction. There is no such thing as inaction. Because the mind-body organism has been designed in a way that you will always be acting. Even thoughts in your mind is an action. It is happening all the time. So you cannot be inactive. You're always active. But there is something called non-action. And non-action is basically associated with non-doership. That means action without any expectation of a preferred outcome. And this is there, mentioned there in Bhagavad Gita. I think Jacqueline on her channel did a talk, right, Jacqueline? You did a talk about this, this verse of Bhagavad Gita, where they talk about action, inaction, and non-action, the difference between action and non-action. So when the effort is dropped, the action becomes natural and spontaneous. And with spontaneity in one's action, one experiences peace. You know why? Because there is no attachment to a preferred outcome. In the case of this sage that was mentioned by Jacqueline in the story, the sage took the child under his care, but there was no expectation that the child belongs to the sage. He completely accepted the fact that one day the child will leave, and the circumstances happened so that the child had to leave, and he gladly let the child go. Problem with us is that we hold, and holding by itself is not a big problem, because in relationships there is certain amount of holding that happens. If you are married, if you have children, families, you do hold them. It's not possible to just keep them free all the time. But there is a difference between holding and grasping. Holding creates pain, but grasping creates suffering. There is a big difference between the two. Holding is a natural flow of life. If you are, let's say, married and you love your husband or your wife, there will be some amount of holding in your relationship. It cannot be avoided. If you have children, if you're close to your siblings or your parents or anybody for that matter, there will be some amount of holding in your relationships. And that holding is by design created by nature, by God, because that deepens the relationship, that enables life to flow in its natural way. But problem happens when the holding changes into grasping. I want you to do this. I want you to say this. I don't want you to say that. I want you to behave like this. I don't want you to behave like that. I like you when you're like this. I don't like you when you're like that. You should do things the way I want to. When we constantly try to change the other, because that's how we prefer, that's how we feel secure, that is grasping. We try to hold on too tightly, too strong. So when we are grasping something, the grasping also happens from the other side. And then the tension happens in relationships. When we are too concerned, it's just like this. If you embrace somebody gently, they relax. You make the same embrace tighter, and they will be gasping for breath and trying to free themselves. If the tight embrace is just for a few moments, it doesn't matter. But if it's long, then of course the other person will feel breathless and choked. That is how life is. The more we try to hold on to life, control life, manipulate life, alter the flow of life, try to change and alter the flow of life, the more pain and suffering we experience in our lives. And we have all done this. All of us, without exception, have done this. And we have experienced suffering, pain. But when it is recognized that appearances are only in the realm of phenomenality, the separation, what appears to be separate, is only in the realm of appearances. But underneath the current that powers all is consciousness or your own beingness. When that beingness is recognized, there is a change. The grasping becomes loose. Holding still remains. Identifications still remains. But the grasping is not strong. It is the human mind becomes more open, more flexible, more adaptable to ideas, different ideas. It is not fixed to one line of thinking. It explores, it investigates, and that is different from seeking. Seeking is always done with an outcome in mind. A seeker starts with an outcome in mind that he or she wants to attain something. But exploration is open. Exploration does not demand a conclusion, a preferred conclusion. Okay, I do my actions in life. I maintain harmonious relationships in life. But still, even then, things may not go well. it doesn't stop me from doing my best. In fact, sages would tell us, do your best and leave the rest. Do your best in every situation, with your loved ones, with families, with whoever is there in your circle. Do your best. Give them your best, whatever you can. But even despite your doing best, know this that it may not be enough for many. And there is nothing you can do about it but to accept that as God's will, that certain people will always be unhappy. You know, one of my acquaintances once asked me, Jagjot, what if this whole non-duality thing is a nonsense? And I said, I'll be really thrilled if it is a nonsense. In fact, to some extent, I do believe that it is all nonsense. I don't know. I may be completely wrong about this. In fact, everything that I've said, I may be completely wrong about this. Who knows? And they asked me, they said, don't you think you are delusional about this? I said, maybe I am. In fact, it's there in my book. It's there in my book, which is titled, I hope you get nothing out of this. There was a question asked. So that is the kind of surrender that brings peace. Now, I am by no means a sage. I'm just an explorer. I have my strict, my conditioning is tough, and living with me is not easy either. I can be quite reactive sometimes too. But here's the thing, I'm completely in harmony with my emotions and my anger. Sometimes it happens and it is strong. And if I hurt someone, let's say, I do hurt some people sometimes, and I do apologize, but I never carry any guilt for hurting the other because that action was truly not mine. I completely accept the consequences, but I do not carry guilt or shame for so perceived my actions because I know that truly they were not my actions. And the underlying consciousness, which is the source and substance of everything, is creating this entire interplay of human interactions. It is only at the level of mind that we are classifying good actions and bad actions, good and evil, hell and heaven. It is all classification of the mind. Your mind can show you the highest heaven and the highest and the steepest of hells. But once the nature of this mind is understood, when the mind is traced to its source, as Sri Ramana Maharishi said, that is the end of it all. Then things don't have to necessarily make sense. The questions lose relevance and they begin dropping. Mind trying to solve the problems of mind begins to dissolve. The knots begins to dissolve, and life becomes simplified. So the only object is to allow for relaxation by simplifying life. The objective here is not to attain enlightenment. It is not to stop the mind. Because when we try to stop the mind, that is an additional thought. So we are creating an additional burden, additional load on ourselves. That first we acknowledge that the mind is chattering, it is turbulent, and then we give ourselves an additional task that now we have to stop the mind. And how do we do that? We use the mind to stop the mind, which is not going to work. It is like employing a thief to protect your valuables. The thief will pretend to be a policeman and say that, oh, don't worry, I will take care of your stuff. But eventually, when the time comes, he will just pick up everything and leave. Purna Samarpan, total surrender. This is what Ramesh Balsekar said. Your surrender cannot be partial. If it is partial surrender, it is dualistic, it is going to create trouble. Total surrender means everything, just give it everything, give up everything, which means accepting, totally accepting that I may not be okay with certain ideas, that I may be reactive to certain situations. And all of my actions that I perceive as mine are not really mine, but the consequences will be there. The actions will have consequences. Therefore, we cannot use the teaching to say that I can just do whatever I like and get away with it by saying that I am not the doer. You may not be the doer, but the consequences will happen. Every action will have consequences because you cannot break the causality link. But you are free of karma the moment you know that you are pure consciousness, that you are the beingness or amness. That is your true nature and not the ego, not the limited entitification that you believe yourself to be. Sri Ramana Maharishi said that the Swarupa and the ego are one and the same. They are not different. They are made up of the same substance. It is only from Swarupa that the ego arises and it subsides back into it. It is not the ego that decides that, it is the Swarupa, it is the consciousness that decides that. And that surrender itself leads to very powerful insights in life. And what does those insights do for us? Actually, materially, nothing. The only thing deep, deep down, everybody is looking for is peace of mind. Because mind suspends movement. And I will use the terminology that Ramesh used. When the mind realizes that it is not the doer, then it questions and says, who is this me? And that question is not to be answered because there cannot be any intellectual answer to that question. Who is this me? Who am I? If the mind comes up with an answer, it is still creating the opposite. It is still attached to an outcome. But the mind completely gives up its sense of personal doership. And that helps us to experience peace of mind in daily living. I didn't say a single word. Okay, if you would like to share anything or ask a question, you can raise your hand and I will unmute you. Yes, Sarthak.
Namaste, Jagjot bhai.
Namaste, Sarthak.
Lovely 12 hours or whatnot.
Sorry?
I hope you had a nice Saturday,
Oh, yes, yes. It's always interesting.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
I don't really have a question, but you know what? Something you said about non-duality being nonsense really struck a chord with me.
Yeah,
Like, because I've also contemplated this question.
yeah,
I think a lot of people, like so-called serious seekers, do. Like, they're like, why am I putting so much effort into this or non-effort into this?
yeah,
And then the really interesting question that comes up is the question of spiritual bypassing, which is a very popular topic
yes,
in, like non-dual circles where they constantly, like
yeah, yeah.
kind of accuse non-dualists of kind of spiritual bypassing. And I really love, I recall one day I was thinking about this and immediately, like, I think I saw Gautam's video on this, and he said something really cool. He was like, people accuse non-dualist people of spiritual bypassing, but most people spiritually bypass the what is,
Yes, of course.
right?
And यार
All
होने दो ना.
that is just accept whatever's coming. Like, I really
होने दो.
don't
Let the
think
bypassing happen. Like why is my spiritual bypassing troubling you?
troubling you so much. Exactly,
Yes,
right?
exactly. It is
It's
a
almost
fear.
like yeah, it's a fear. It's a fear. The same fear where like, oh, you know what? If I, get I slip down this non-duality slope, I will totally lose myself. I'll
Oh yeah.
fall off the cliff. I'll never be able to come back to my intellectual
Yes,
faculty again.
yes. I will become a menace to society. I will harm people. It's like it goes on constant. Like the biggest problem with this is when people say that, oh, you're spiritually bypassing. That means they're saying that you are delusional, that that somehow you are lacking something, and they
I mean,
they come from this perception that they have figured it out. Like they have figured it out that you are spiritually bypassing it. You know,
yeah.
and it is just the ego's game to show. I mean, I would be just open. I would say, okay, if they're spiritually bypassing, let them do it. Even I was told, like, don't you think you're delusional? And I said, maybe I am a little delusional. Like, what's the big deal about it? I will, I will learn my lessons. I will learn the hard way. I will learn my lessons. But if I have to undergo suffering to learn, why are you trying to prevent my suffering? you know why are you trying to shorten my suffering? Why are you trying to help me in that way? You are not all that benevolent. You actually don't care about me at all. It is just that you have seen something, you're trying to catch it, and you're trying to convey a point. And the point is, usually the point is, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I know something, you don't know another thing. So Yes, it can happen. See, spiritual bypassing, all these things can happen in any form of, in any way of life. Spiritual bypassing, and there are other terms also like, intellectualization, rationalization. We do it in our daily living every day.
Like
And
you,
yes, of course, I was, somebody was telling me this, that there was a there was a person who received a news from his doctor that he has cancer. Okay, and the doctor said that it's the last stage, and you know it is quite, like, he didn't say it's the last stage, he said that it's quite malignant now, and like, uh, i would I would request you to take care of this. And he was immediately like, okay, so what medicines can I take, and what are my chances, and what can I do about this? So immediately the mind begins to divert attention from the problem. It is not ready to face what is, right? So it is like trying to just find a way around it. So even when people try to pinpoint the other, it's always trying to escape some of their own pain, some of their own suffering.
oh yeah.
So, Buddha would, people would say that the late Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh would say that if you want to suffer, then suffer like a Buddha. It is like suffer with total acceptance. Do not put conditions on your suffering, that I will suffer when the conditions are favorable, and I will not suffer when the conditions are not. So total acceptance means that yes, it may not be a pleasant experience for me. Sometimes spiritual awakening is a very tough experience for many people till the end of their life. It is. It was never easy for Ramakrishna Paramhansa. He struggled so much in personal life. He struggled with anger, with rage.
Oh yeah.
He, you know, he had brilliant mind. He had a brilliant mind. But make no mistake, he had his human conditioning. He would just strip and start dancing naked in front of people sometimes. Now that would seem erratic to a rational mind. But for him, those divisions were already not there. Those concepts were already not there. He was spontaneous and he was doing what came spontaneously. He would be quite rough sometimes with his wife, Sharda Devi, Ma Sharda Devi, you know. Even other sages like Sai Baba could be very aggressive sometimes. It is human conditioning. We all are sometimes like that. But when one is completely in acceptance of oneself the way one is, then these type of things begin to fade away. Like, people don't care generally then if others are bypassing, or we just see that every one of us are passing through our own individual processes. Now Ramesh said that process is always there. Some or the other process, nobody is born enlightened. Some process always takes place, but every process is unique to every body mind organism. It is not that there is one path, one teaching, one method that is just going to liberate you. Otherwise, just read all the scriptures, all the, and it should free you, but it does not. It does not. One has to go deep into life. One has to understand what life really is. That's a very great point you brought up, Sarthak, about spiritual bypassing. And generally, yes, generally there's a fear associated with it.
And when people talk about spiritual bypassing, and I'm like, how is it any different than any faith in the world? You believe in like a God sitting in the cloud with his white beard pronouncing judgments on people based on the sins and the merits they have committed. Like, how is it? It's literally the same thing, but it's just like this is, this is more mainstream. This is more socially recognized.
Yes, yes,
Its form of delusion is acceptable to us as a society. And this is something not a lot of people go into, so it must be a delusional
yeah,
illusion. I mean, it's just like I'll give you a personal instance from my life. So it's been a while since I've been into all of this. I mean, we know each other's journeys. So my best friend, okay? Now, it usually starts with your, first in line, like your acquaintance, you're basically your family and your friends, like the close friends, they start noticing changes in you. And I remember one day I was hanging out with my best friend, and my best friend keeps hankering me with, he always keeps asking me for solutions. I never offer advice, but he's always like, "Pata nahi kya, maybe he knows something, maybe he knows something." I'm like, dude, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But um, here's what he said one day. I still remember. I didn't react to it, but it struck me, this whole point you brought up, right? He was like, sometimes I think you've escaped into your own mind,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yes.
see, which is a polite way of saying you're delusional, right?
Yes. Yes.
No, but then you know what he said after that? He said initially he didn't bring it up immediately. Like he knows I'm, I'm gonna stop talking to him. So he took his time. He's kind of like he bided his time and tried to like gather more information or try to understand what the situation exactly was. And yeah, after a while, he said, initially, when you came back from, abroad and you got into all of this, although my journey had started before abroad also. He was like, I initially thought that, you'd somehow escaped into your own mind, like a delusion. But now, he didn't use the exact words, but he implied it. He said, but I can't argue with it because I feel very peaceful around you. And that is the whole bloody point.
That is the whole point. If you feel peaceful around me, then why does this question even come up?
Come
Then
up.
this, then there is no point of this question. This question is coming up because you're truly not peaceful inside and you're
Exactly.
trying to find out something and you're trying to prove something and you're trying to prove that there is something going on there that you're not aware of, and I'm putting light on that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
somehow capable of putting light on that.
yeah, yeah.
So yes, we
It
do.
cannot be permanent. Impossible. How can you? That's not possible.
Yes.
I haven't experienced it.
Yes, yes. And generally, the thing is that we all think that there is something special about awakening, that there is some state, some permanent state, which somehow great sages have experienced and we have not experienced. What they don't understand is that every human being, including every sage, is just living their blueprint. There is nothing special, anything special about awakening, spiritual awakening. In fact, let's say people who do get the insight, I don't like to use the word awakening, it's a very,
Yeah, I know.
but
Loaded.
let's use the word insight, or let's use that
Like,
understanding. People who gain this understanding do not have very comfortable life. There are a lot of struggles. In fact, I'm not going to share my personal experience right now because of certain reasons, but what I'm going through right now, majority of people would be horrified to be in my situation right now. But the thing is, it does not affect me to that extent because the master's words are there and there is this understanding that it is all impermanent and things change and there is no way you can control or alter the flow of life. So what is bound to happen, like Sri Ramana Maharishi said, that what is bound to happen will happen. If you are meant to be delusional while following a particular path, you will be. If you are meant to get hurt, you will get hurt. It is your personal blueprint. But eventually, all of us are moving towards that center of peace. That is inevitable. We are all moving towards that.
in sense it, you can't deny that, and you cannot communicate that to other people. It's possible. Language is limited.
Exactly, exactly. All that masters are doing is just pointing. They are just pointing. They are not trying to tell you the truth. I'm not saying what I'm saying is the truth. I'm just giving you a concept. Ramesh only gave concepts. He said it is all concepts. Take the concepts, evaluate, see in your life, and don't be in a hurry to evaluate. Just keep them in your mind. And when you meet people, when life gives you experience, right? When you face life's challenges, then evaluate that against these concepts and see if they resonate with you. If they resonate, then you will be automatically at peace. If they do not resonate, throw the concepts away and explore something else. Explore other teachings. Non-duality is not anything special. In fact, it is sort of being made into a quote
Yeah,
unquote cultish thing. It is sort of becoming,
it's
the,
a fact. Don't
it's
you see all these YouTubers?
yeah,
So many non-duals. It's insane.
yeah, yeah.
Like a
You
cottage industry now.
even yeah, non-duality can also fall into the same trap
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
as other religions or other people
Yes.
are falling. It can be you can become a non-dualist. The day you become a non-dualist, that is that is the day you've lost it completely. So I tell people, call me anything, but for heaven's sake, don't call me a non-dualist.
I know it's I don't like the term either,
Yes,
honest. You
yes.
know,
There is no non-dualist.
why would any non-dualist want a label stuck on their forehead? Nobody would want to. One would
No,
want.
there is only now. This is just concept. We just say there is only awareness, and the whole idea of that is to just direct the mind inwards. We are so our mind is so extroverted, all the time. We are always thinking about people. We are always thinking about situations. This person hurt me, that situation hurt me, this did that to me. It's always the other. This whole split between me and the other is the cause of our suffering. And the moment this dissolves, it sometimes you're just sitting there and it dissolves, and then you see there is no suffering at all. You all of a sudden you find yourself peaceful, and then it comes back again and it says, now I want to capture that as a permanent state. But that is not possible because that is not how life allows it.
It's a free
So,
sample.
yeah, of course. So, yes, that happens too. But it is accepted.
Can I bring up another topic? I've like just something came up to me while you were talking.
Okay.
Okay, so let's discuss this topic because it's an interesting topic. It's like, you talked about, the sage being completely, or the conceptual sage being completely open to pain but not suffering, and accepting the what is. Jackie took us through that story where it was like, oh, is it so? Like total surrender. Now, another question that really comes up, I think it's a valid question the ego asks, is won't this make me utterly vulnerable to the forces around me?
It can. Yes, it can. Because in any case, you have no control over the forces around you. So it can. But the whole thing is that when you accept that, right? When you accept that, yes, there are forces beyond your control and they're all over the place, that itself brings surrender. And then there is no outcome. There is like, okay, if it happens this way, it is fine. If it happens that way, it is fine. If my relationship sustains, that is fine. If it breaks away, that is fine too. Now, it doesn't mean that I will not experience pain. Pain you will experience. In fact, you may experience intense pain, but there will not be suffering because you will not try to avoid the pain. You will experience it completely. You will surrender to it. That's what Thich Nhat Hanh meant when he said, if you suffer, suffer like a Buddha. Buddha does not resist pain. Buddha completely embraces the pain, like in his entire body. And he says that let it destroy me, but I'm still going to not create any aversion towards it. Because according to Buddhism, aversion and attraction are two sides of the same coin. They are the same movement. There's no difference between attraction and aversion. So, yes, these forces are always there and they will always acting on us. Okay. So, okay, anybody else would like to ask something or share something? Please feel free to raise your hand. Okay. Yes, Mandeep.
Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste, Mandeep.
Namaste, Jackie. Thank you, Jackie, for sharing a beautiful story.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
Jagjot, my question to you is, while talking about being, which is our vertical dimension,
Yes,
yeah, we say there are no attributes to to for our being,
yes,
but when we say Sat-Chit Ananda, okay,
yes.
aren't we giving attributes to that state or that
We
thing?
are, actually, we are giving attributes. But you see, Madip, here's the thing. Sat-Chit-Ananda is the conclusion. And there are three words: Sat, which is being; Chit, which is consciousness; and Ananda, which is bliss. But they are not three different things. They're one and the same. Being is consciousness, and consciousness is bliss. And they're all the same, and they're pointing to the same truth. The truth which is attributeless, the truth which cannot be actually described in words. But somehow communication had to happen. So Satchitananda came as a concept. But in that, uh, let's say the topic of Ananda, which is bliss. Now we have this idea that bliss has to be a certain way because we associate pleasure in the world with certain stimulations, right? So we say that bliss means that I will have certain pleasurable sensations and others will be unpleasurable. So I have to, so bliss is only when I experience only certain types of sensations. But that is not the bliss that is being talked about in Satchitananda. Bliss is simply your being, your complete restfulness, where there is no demand, where there is no movement.
Mhm. So let me see if I understood this.
Mandeep,
Uh,
can you be a little loud? Like your volume
okay,
is.
let me see if the volume can be. Am I more audible now?
Yes, yes, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, just the question skipped my mind now.
No problem.
Um, uh, yes, so let me see if I have understood you correctly.
Yeah.
You say that bliss, when we say bliss here, it means restfulness,
Yes,
uh, not to be confused with a certain pleasure giving or some
yes,
sensation.
yes,
Is that what you mean?
yes, exactly. It is not limited. It is not limited to any sensation. Bliss is always impersonal. Suffering is always personal. That is the whole concept. Because bliss, I think this is one of the chapters in my book, The End of Me and My Story, that bliss is always impersonal. What we perceive as pleasure is actually pain in disguise. This was said by Nisargadatta Maharaj. Because we experience pleasure, then we crave the repeat of the sensation, the repeat of the pleasure, and that brings pain. Because more pleasure we want, the more pleasure we experience, the more we want it. And sometimes it leads to addictions, other times it leads to chasing, it leads to some kind of unhappiness because we always know that there is an opposite. But when it comes to bliss, like the bliss of deep sleep, which is like pure restfulness, that does not have any experience as such. That does not have any dimensions. That does not have any notion of a person experiencing anything. So bliss, which is mentioned in Sat-Chit-Ananda, that is not the bliss which the person experiences, but it is the impersonal awareness of being. That is the vertical dimension.
So, which you say, Jagjot, is inbuilt.
Sorry,
It, which is inbuilt.
which is our
Inbuilt is,
yeah, it is inbuilt. It is our substratum. Actually, it is the substance of everything. It is the pure I, because it begins with the it is only the I that expands as I am this or I am that. I will do this, I will do that. That is how life happens with the movement of I, right? Today, I am Jagjot Singh. I will
Mhm.
talk, I will move, I will do this, I will do that. That is how life happens through the movement of I. So movement always has to be horizontal, right? But I itself is the it is the this thing, vertical dimension. That means by itself, when I is there, it is complete restfulness, and it is not a movement. And vertical means impersonal. That means there is no person associated with it. So if you have to describe yourself in terms of I, only in terms of I, and you're not allowed to use any other word besides I, you would not be able to describe yourself as a person, but you can
Mhm.
fully communicate yourself as being with the I, as beingness, as Sat-Chit-Ananda, as the I.
Okay, thank you. Um, you you talked about liberation. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh, please pardon me if I love to take concepts which people think they understand, but I feel sometimes I want to strike at the root of it.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what is liberation?
Liberation is liberation is a concept of the ego. Liberation is a fantasy of the ego, where it says that I can do something to liberate myself. But what the masters have said is that ego by nature is pain, ego by nature is suffering. So there is no liberation for the ego, but the acceptance, not the ego's acceptance, the surrender, not the ego's surrender, but surrender happens. And the happening of surrender is liberation. So in other words, you already are liberated. There is nothing to be liberated as such. Because
Mhm.
okay, let me try to put it in a more suitable format. How valuable would a liberation be that has to be attained? That is not there already. Because if it is attained, then it can easily be lost. Anything that is attained can easily be lost. So freedom, liberation,
Mhm.
moksha, nirvana, or any other word that people want to use, if it is to be attained, then for me that has no value. Absolutely has no value or significance, because that can be lost very easily. So liberation itself is the understanding that there is nothing to be liberated from. There is no one trying to liberate.
Mhm. It is an insight.
It
Uh,
is an insight. It is an understanding of the heart, not an intellectual understanding. It is it is a deep, deep knowing which brings the mind to rest, because then you don't make any effort. You don't try to attain any state. You don't try to hold on to anything. You don't try to grasp anything. The change that it brings in life is that we have lot of associations in life, relationships, money, work, this, that. These are all bondages in life. And there is no escape from these bondages, because this is a flow of life. The only
mhm.
problem is that we are holding too tight to certain things. Let's say money, sometimes it can be money, or let's say a
Mhm.
specific relationship. I'm in
Mhm.
love with someone, I'm holding them too tight. I'm in love with money, I'm holding the idea of money too tight. That is constantly creating pain. But what happens is that when one understands that there is actually no one at the center which is doing anything, then there is no me. When there is no me, there is actually no grasping of anything. But the conceptual
Mhm.
person always remains, because nature provides that to have interhuman interactions, to have life as we know it. So the notion of a person remains. And the notion of the person, its nature is holding, is binding. It's just that when the binding is loose, then there is no need for anybody to attain any freedom, any enlightenment, any nirvana, because then there is peace. And when there is peace, there is actually nothing to be found, nothing to be attained. It is only when the mind is restless, and mind is restless when it is holding on tight to things, to concepts, to ideas, ideologies. It is then that the mind struggles and it says, I want freedom. It wants freedom because it itself is holding to the concept too tight. I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Christian. I can have very tight associations with my religion. And I can say that, you know, that when that association is tight, anybody who just says anything against that, I get really upset.
Okay.
You see, so freedom is basically, or liberation, as we want to call it, is simply just loosening the hold of it. It's just letting it slide. That all all there is consciousness, and in that consciousness we are playing Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, or Christian, whatever, and roles. Even mother, father, son, daughter, all these are also roles. They are not right or wrong. They are just roles. And roles have to be played. That's the nature of life. So holding on is fine. Grasping creates suffering. But here's the thing, Mandeep. If it is in one's destiny to grasp, they will grasp and they will continuously experience suffering too. Recognition of that happening actually reduces the intensity of suffering quite a lot. So life itself has been said to be a life sentence. It is like a life sentence. But the only thing is, with this understanding, the life sentence does not become a rigorous imprisonment. That's the only difference.
Perhaps, Jagjot, when Nanak said, Nanak Dukhiya Sab Sansar, perhaps, or Buddha saying
Exactly.
like,
Yes. They said even the gurus, in the gurus in fact, I was in a Gurdwara some time back and I read a very beautiful verse. I'll probably share that. I have shared that in a blog post where the Guru cries actually. The Guru cries and say that this world is troubling for me. The Guru says that it is troubling, it is bondage. And it is saying that please do something that I don't have to come here again. Even the Guru says. So, yes, it is there. The only thing is that with the acceptance that the nature of life is like this, what I do is I simply just relax myself a little. When I relax, all my associations, all my holdings, they automatically become loosened. And then the flow of life becomes simple and smooth. That's it. There is nothing other. There is no liberation other than that. But I mean, that is just my personal idea. Beyond that, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is some liberation, but I haven't found it as yet. So the day, the day, the day I find it, I will let you know.
So thank you for sharing that. Uh, you know, going further on this, on Mind Theater, in one of the videos from Jiddu Krishnamurti,
Yeah.
he asked someone, why does the mind chatter so much?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. He doesn't give an answer to that.
No.
And nor the video ended there.
Yeah.
Maybe you would like to, maybe it's a elaborate topic you would like to take up it in a blog or somewhere, but
Yeah.
why does the mind chatter so much?
Yes. That is the nature of mind. It is doing what it is designed to do, you know. And the chattering usually, you see, okay, I have a concept about this, and it is again tied up to what I have been speaking up till now. It is like the chatter of mind is again associated with grasping of concepts. It is all grasping, grasping, grasping. We don't even realize the extent to which we hold on to things in our life. Sometimes it hits us, when the ideas that we love, we like are criticized, and then we feel the pain, and then we get to realize, oh man, somebody came and said non-duality is nonsense. I get these kind of messages frequently on my, they are there to humble me many times. so so and all my responses, love, brother, love to you, love and peace to you, because there's no point arguing. Ramesh would say, when the ego speaks, the ego listens. So it is, of course, mind, the ego mind, that is entangled in thoughts. And then ego mind itself is coming up with a solution. It is saying, oh, I have a solution to the problem of thinking. And what is that solution? Don't think. Simply don't think.
Thinking not allowed.
Yeah. So when it says don't think, what it has done is just it has created just one another thought, you know. So now you had, let's say, 1,000 thoughts, now you have 1,001 thoughts. So so your problems have not reduced, your problems have actually increased. So
Such a
this is
good
the
one.
thing. You know, you are employing the thief to protect your valuables. It's just going to it's just going to show its nature. It's not going to protect anything. But what happens if one surrenders? Okay, man, if the mind is chattering, let it chattering. Let me just have, just explore things. Let me see what is my relationship with my thoughts. Like, where am I holding stuff? What am I holding? What are my relationships like? Let's get into the deep things. What my relationship is like with my spouse, with my children, wife, husband, parents. What is my relationship with my own life, with my own concepts, my own ideologies? How am I attached to my own line of thinking? And then it's a different game altogether. Now, I'm not saying that one has to divide. This is right, this is wrong. That's not what all Jiddu Krishnamurti, all he says is, sir, just observe, just see it for what it is. He's not saying come to a conclusion. The moment mind comes to a conclusion, it is usually not the surrender. So when, just giving, I was giving this example. When this question comes up, if I'm not the doer, then who is this me? There is no answer to this question. If an answer comes up, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not this, I'm not that, neti, or anything, then we are still trapped in the realm of mind. We are still trapped in the realm of mind. We are not restful. We are still seeking. We are still exploring. And that is fine. There's nothing right or wrong about this. But yes, seeking is painful. We all agree that seeking is a little painful. But it is a pain that one has to go through in life. Seeking ends, but exploration never ends. That is the beautiful thing. And exploration by nature is very beautiful. And I think Jacqueline can tell us a little about exploration before she dozes off to sleep. Jacqueline, would you like to tell us about exploration? I hope all of you are awake here. I cannot see videos of some people, but I hope they are awake.
Which
What?
facet?
Yeah,
Which facet
yes,
of exploration?
yes. Okay, you woke up. So the the facet of exploration is, uh, what has exploration, like, how has exploration brought you new insights in life?
Wow. Well, I guess I'll just pick one way that it shows up frequently lately is like, instead of okay, so it's not like I
Jackie,
don't.
hold on, please, just a moment. There is a message from Chitra. He's saying, I am awake. Thank you, Chitra. Thank you. Chalo, we know the one person is awake here.
It worked.
All right. Sorry to interrupt, Jacqueline. Please continue.
No, I was thinking, like, so when you say exploration, I mean, there's so many ways to approach that, really. But for me, lately, I've noticed I don't have there's no reduction of like, so I think I had this, let me back up. I had this concept of like, okay, spiritual awakening happens and then like reactions are no more. And that's not at all been my experience. I still have every response and reaction that I had before. except I noticed one difference lately is like I'm able to, I would call it an exploration. I'm able to explore when a response or a reaction happens, like if something annoys me, like I'll take that construction noise, like I would say I felt irritated, and I was like, you know, it had me in its grips, like it felt strong, but also there's always this like part of me that's like, wait, what's happening, like what's going on, why is it so annoying, like why don't you just put your headphones on, or like what, like, you know,
Yeah, I have
what
done
is
that
that?
frequently.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And so I don't know, I mean, in a way sometimes that feels to me like I don't talk about this much with, I appreciate this, like satsang is great for me because I don't really go around telling people, like, because it sounds like I'm having this conversation with myself, which it, because it's like and in a way it is, it's like me asking myself, okay, you know, why are you focusing on that instead of being creative about how to maneuver around it? And then sometimes I imagine like a map. I imagine like every day of my life as a map, and like obstacles show up, and then I just like, either I'm like, do I want to go around, do I want to go through, do I want to like uh fight, like what do I want to do here? And I mean, I'm making it sound like it's really fun and playful, but it's actually, it's also pain too.
Stop.
So, so what I think is, what I think it is like your working mind is constantly thinking, evaluating according to a situation that is happening in the given moment. But there is no outcome that you are attached to. So that is what exploration, I think that is what exploration is. Exploration by nature is beautiful. You may have a reaction, let's say. You may say that, I mean, I always have a reaction when I'm in traffic and there are people blowing horn. And it is extreme in my case when, when I'm walking on the road and somebody from behind comes up and honks, pap, and I'm a Punjabi guy. So I'm a Punjabi dude. So I just turn around and there is a Punjabi style response to that. So, so now here's the thing. It just happens spontaneously. But here's the thing, I don't see a person when I do that. I don't see a person. And it is in that moment over for me. And then exploration begins. Oh, reaction happened. This happened, reaction happened. I was thinking something, my thought was interrupted. It brought up anger. Anger brought up an action. Action was directed towards a certain person or an object. The exploration is happening. Simply, there is no judgment towards oneself. Why did I react? For what did I do that? I should not have done that. It makes me a good person, bad person. No, nothing like that.
Hmm.
So exploration is beautiful, and that happens throughout life. There is no stopping of exploration. It's a beautiful, beautiful process. It's a gift of awakening, I would say.
Absolutely.
But seeking ends, as in I'm not trying to find a solution. I'm not trying to stop the world from honking. I know the honking will always happen. I'm not trying to, the construction will often always happen. The drilling will always happen. I'm not going to stop the world. I'm not going to, raise awareness, trying to tell people how bad construction is. All I'm going to do is that either I'm going to use my Punjabi style to get it to stop. If it doesn't stop, then also it's accepted. My headphones are there. Headphones, they may help. If they help, it's fine. Otherwise, it's okay. Maybe I'll just wake up and watch a movie or do something or the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is no outcome, preferred outcome. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing, and that brings peace. That brings peace. Well, so I think let us now conclude. Uh, oh, is Would anybody else like to share something or ask something? Please feel free to. We can take up one last question if anybody is interested. Okay, Sarthak, just 1 minute, dude. Let me just see if there is anybody else. If
Yes,
they're
yes.
not, then I'll come back to you. Okay.
No, it's a dumb question anyway. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. No, no question is done. But let's see if
You
anybody
know
else.
what I mean? It's like a playful question.
Okay. Okay. So I think there is nobody else right now. So Sarthak, I'll come to you. Let's make it quick before these people doze off to
Yeah,
sleep.
yeah, man. You can't have these many casualties on a hand.
Yes, as
Um,
it is, we've held them for too long.
gunpoint, non-dual gunpoint.
Yes, non-dual captivity.
Yeah, so my frivolous question is, Jagjot, what is a thought?
Yeah, Sarthak, you did listen, man.
I knew it. I knew you'd say that. And
Dude,
on that, we can end our satsang. It's meant, it's meant to make your brain stop thinking.
yeah, exactly. Okay, first tell me who is asking the question. If you tell me who's
Like
asking the question, then I'll tell you.
my the me that has created the
Yes,
thought,
the one that has
which is the
created the
thought
thought.
itself,
Yeah, the thought is
which is the
asking
thought.
what thought.
Thought is the
Yeah,
thought is trying to look at what it is, but it's trying to, it's thinking about thought
yeah.
while being thought itself.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Mind is trying to find a solution to mind's problem using the mind. That is the thing. That is what gets us entangled, you know. That is what gets us entangled into concepts. It is not about concepts. We are not trying to solve anything. Never ever will I do the disservice of giving you any solution to any of your problems. Never I will do that. And if I do that, I apologize beforehand if I try to do that ever. Because my aim here is not to solve your problems, but to point you to the source of your questions. That is what I have learned has brought me peace because that's my concept. That is what I've heard Ramana Maharishi say. That is what I've heard Nisargadatta Maharaj say. That is what Ramesh Balsekar says. And that has been my personal experience too. So I'm not interested in solving any problem, no worldly problem, nor individual problems. I'm just pointing you to your source. And your source itself will guide you. The heart itself will guide you. Okay, so I think we will conclude now. It has been a beautiful evening. Thank you all for your presence, for your loving presence. We'll meet again next week. Take care of all of you. Good night.
Have a lovely weekend, you all.